This is CBC Here and Now.
We have children of every race because our class is open to every race and they're having an amazing time.
A summer camp with a twist.
Children having fun while learning about racism at a new cultural inclusion camp.
Well, we had a humid day today. That's going to go away for a little bit. It will return, but we also have some rain on the way through parts of the province.
I think it's kind of neat to be able to paint figures and people with plants.
Painting with a local flavor.
A St. John's artist creates paintings from flowers and berries. We'll find out how she does it. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Jeremy Eden.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. Well, organizers say it's one of a kind. A new summer camp in St. John's is proving that kids can have fun while also learning about social justice. Cultural Inclusion Camp mixes classic camp activities like crafting and music with an anti-racism theme. Raven Khadija is the organizer of the event. She says this is a continuation of the work advocates did during Black Lives Matter, turning words into action.
Cultural Inclusion Camp 2021 is really and truly just a place where kids can come to camp in the traditional sense and learn all about topics that are completely untraditional by every means. For example, we have an actor class taking place right now. He's going to be discussing exercises as well as some racial sentiments on what really goes on in casting all around the world and some of the prejudices that people feel, including stereotyping of accents, stereotyping of physical attributes. We had a rapper, Bruce M8, came in and he did a rapping session and he looked at the history of rap, and through that we addressed cultural appropriation. We also have a African jewelry, waist beading, anklet, everything you can possibly think of.
Pick whatever color you want.
I want purple.
Yes, you can have purple. I want yellow. No problem.
Well, yesterday we had a little seminar on Black migration to Canada and how anti-Black racism was born. And I think it was really educational because literally we aren't even taught that there was slavery in Canada, that anything like that happened. So learning something like that, I think, is really important.
As a co-founder of Black Lives Matter NL, I have spent much of the last year on various stages yelling and shouting about how much more we need we need to take as a province, we need to take an active step in introducing anti-racism curriculum in diverse, fun ways to the classroom and not just as a add-on. It's something that is needed. It helps children figure out who they want to be, helps them figure out their identity and their identity in relation to other people's identity without the aggressiveness, without the issues. And we have children of every race because our class is open to every race and they're having an amazing time.
We're doing like workshops on social justice, and it's just a really amazing camp because I'm learning so much about culture and stuff, and I don't think I would have gotten this if I hadn't have went to this camp. Like I don't know what your culture is or anything, but I would like to learn about your language and your culture.
It's ignorant not to educate yourself on things, and that it's super easy to learn about all of these issues, and even just doing the littlest bit of research can teach you so much.
Well, if you stepped outside today, you noticed how beautiful it was as far as those temperatures go across the board. Temperatures in the 20s for most of the island, rather, up across Labrador. Temperatures a little bit cooler, 16 degrees in Nain today. But we factor in that humidex. It was certainly humid for most of the day today. Humidex value of about 31 for Port aux Basques today. In fact, it was a record breaker as far as those dew points go. The muggy old day for sure in Port aux Basques. 23.2 degrees was the dew point. When we start to see those dew points up in the 20s, that's when it's really humid. The last time that happened was about 21.9, and that was back in August of 2012. Just to put that into perspective, current dew points right now in Florida, into the 20s. So that's the type of humidity that we're seeing. We are going to say goodbye to that for a little while. It'll come back, but I'll get into all those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the province has won a multi-million-dollar settlement from Hydro-Quebec. It's the result of a rare court battle win that dates back to 2019, part of the province's ever-simmering dispute with the utility over the Churchill Falls power contract. Here Now's Mark Quinn has more on the almost $25 million payout.
Cut out of the rock in remote Labrador, it was an example of man over nature.
Hydro-Quebec still gets much more money from the Central Labrador Churchill Falls hydroelectric facility, about 10 times more than Newfoundland and Labrador. Over the last 50 years, it's meant tens of billions for Quebec versus a few billion for Newfoundland and Labrador. So for Canada's easternmost province, the recent settlement is a small victory. In 2019, the Quebec Court of Appeal ruled that the Churchill Falls Corporation, of which NL Hydro is a majority shareholder, has the right to sell energy produced above a certain threshold. It means the corporation should have made more money since 2016. That decision sparked about 2 years of negotiations. The result is that Hydro-Quebec has agreed to pay the Churchill Falls Corporation a retroactive payment of almost $25 million. NL Hydro has confirmed this, but isn't doing interviews, saying only that the settlement contains commercially sensitive information and releasing it might upset Hydro-Quebec. Hydro-Quebec's contract, valid until 2041, means the utility purchases a majority of electricity generated by the Central Labrador facility, and it buys it for much less than market value. Hydro-Quebec has successfully argued in court that the contract is valid, because it assumed all the costs and risks that came with the project when the contract was signed in 1969. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, police are warning the public about fentanyl-laced drugs. Around 10:30 last night, the RNC responded to a call on Howlett Avenue in St. John's. Now, police say they found illicit drugs in the house and they believe they contain fentanyl. The RNC now has concerns for the safety of anyone who uses street drugs, saying even a minuscule amount of the opioid could be fatal.
Serial sex offender Matthew Twine has been denied bail. Twine was arrested in Mount Pearl earlier this month, accused of breaching probation. After a bail hearing yesterday afternoon, a provincial court judge decided he will be staying behind bars. Twine has a 20-page criminal record with about 100 convictions. Most are sexual in nature or breaches of court orders. Last month, Twine was living in Mount Pearl, and Mayor Dave Aker said residents were worried for their safety.
Charges have been dropped against one of the prison guards arrested in the 2019 death of inmate Jonathan Henoch at Her Majesty's Penitentiary. Robbie Ash is the lawyer for Correctional Officer Stefan Cumby.
It's been our position from very early on, when we received the disclosure on this file, that a charge should never have been laid against Mr. Cumby.
Yesterday morning, the Crown Attorney's Office withdrew charges against Cumby, saying there was no likelihood of a conviction. A total of 10 prison guards were charged following Henoch's death. Cumby is the first to have his charges dropped. 7 officers were accused of negligence causing death, while 3 officers face manslaughter charges. Henoch, a 33-year-old Inuk man from Nain, was in St. John's awaiting a first-degree murder trial when he died in protective custody. He was accused of killing 88-year-old Regula Shuli in 2016.
Good news for hockey fans. The Newfoundland Growlers will be back at Mile 1. The hockey team signed a 3-year lease agreement with the City of St. John's yesterday. Tickets are expected to go on sale soon, and the city is encouraging people to get out and support the team. It's been a tumultuous time for local sports. Just last month, the city shocked fans when it announced it had struck a tentative deal with an American Basketball Association, saying it was unable to reach an agreement with the St. John's Edge. Deacon Sports and Entertainment had a deal to take over the basketball team. That's the same company that owns the Growlers. Deacon Sports was tight-lipped today, saying it would have more to say in the coming weeks. The city says it's been a long road, but it is happy to have the 3-year commitment in place.
The main thing was the Growler staying here, so that was the main thing. I would say yes, the board is happy with the lease. If we weren't happy, we wouldn't have signed it. So that's the main thing, is to keep the Growlers here. You know, the residents made it loud and clear. They like the Growlers, they want the Growlers, they want event nights here behind me at Mile 1. So yeah, we're definitely happy.
Well, Action, an indoor amusement park in St. John's, has gone into receivership. Owner Ross Squires posted on Facebook yesterday afternoon saying it happened with very short notice Monday evening. Squires says he and his family did everything possible to try to keep the beloved business opened. As of Monday evening, Squires no longer has access to the building or its bank accounts. He says customers who have issues with deposits or other matters must contact the accounting firm Grant Thornton. In January, Squires announced he would be closing his doors and couldn't withstand the financial hit of the pandemic. After a huge outpouring of public support, he was able to stay afloat for several more months.
A St. John's artist is infusing her paintings with local flavors. She creates botanical ink from local flowers and berries. Here and Now visited the Old Trout studio to see the process firsthand, from foraging to finished product. Have a look.
I think it's kind of neat to be able to paint figures and people with plants. But this really does give it a nice view into the range of colors that you're actually able to get from the botanicals. As I'm walking, I'm, enjoying the scenery and everything, but at the same time, my eyes are down at the ground looking to see if there's any, unusual little flowers or looking for berries. Maybe I'm looking at everything in a bit of a different way than I used to. This is such an amazing place. This is my favorite place in the whole world, Newfoundland is. I do a ton of walking and hiking and kayaking, so I just bring baggies wherever I go and see what I can find. It's kind of like seeing that something that you love and something that is so beautiful can also be beautiful in another way that we may not have thought about before. So all of a sudden, a purple flower becomes this stunning forest green color that I can paint with. It's crazy. I like to take the petals, and quite often when I'm picking them, if I want to see if they're really going to, or might get a hint of whether or not they're going to give me any sort of color, I can just, rub them on my hand, or sometimes I carry a little bit of paper with me and I'll rub them on the paper and you might get something totally different. The way that I do it mostly is to mash the ingredients down as much as I can in some water and let it simmer for a while. After it cools down, I strain it and see what I have left. And at that point, it's usually a very nice clear pigment. I add a mordant, which is usually, it can be alum when I put it in, is like fireworks. It brightens up the colors and usually gives you something completely different than you had before. So it's just magical. The color that you have in your jar, the color that you've made, can look completely different when you put it on paper. It's incredible. And then as you watch it dry, it's changing again. They're like living paintings. It's using what's around us that's so beautiful and seeing what it can become.
The program is 100% free, not a charge whatsoever, and that's the great thing about it. No shipping, no handling, no nothing.
No waste, no litter, encouraging fishers to clear out their gear. I'll explain just ahead.
Well, taking a look outside, temperatures are starting to drop. They're going to stay cool tomorrow. We'll see a little bit of a warm up, but I'll get into all those details when I come back.
That's what today is.
Calling all kindergartners. Here and Now is looking for kids who are heading off on their first day of school ever. Ask mom or dad to grab their phone and take a video of you. Tell us your name, where you're from, and why you're excited about starting school.
It's a day for kindergarten.
Then email that video to nlphotos@cbc.ca, and you could be on TV before the first bell rings.
Welcome back to Here and Now. If you've ever been out fishing, sometimes your line might break, or maybe you have an old line, and for a long time the only thing you could do with it was throw it out. But now there's another option, and here to tell us about it is Barry Fordham. Barry, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Barry, tell us a little bit about the program that you launched this summer.
Yes, our conservation group, the Newfoundland Outdoor Heritage Coalition, has been in contact with a not-for-profit group in Manitoba called Clear Your Gear. What they're about is they get receptacles to send around to different locations by request for the collection of used and old monofilament fishing line.
And what's the response been so far to this new sort of recycling program?
Well, with everything new, there's always a slow response. But our hope is to, as time goes by, more and more people will become aware of it and will want to use those receptacles for the collection of that unwanted line.
Now, fishing has been something that we've been doing in this province for hundreds and hundreds of years. We've been using fishing line for a long time. But prior to this, what would people normally do with their fishing line, Barry?
Some anglers who are conscientious about it would ball it up and put it in their pocket, in their basket, and bring it home. But for the most part, myself included, back in the day, we would just ball it up and toss it on the shoreline or in the woods or something like that. What
sort of trouble does that cause to the animals like those ducks down there who live in these waters?
Very serious trouble, as probably most know. The line, it takes forever to decompose, and on the ground or in the woods or wherever it might be, it's going to eventually catch a fish, a trout, a duck, a bird, or a small animal, and then once it gets wrapped around, then it's very difficult to get off, and the thing then is going to die a slow and painful death, which is a shame.
Barry, how would you describe what one of these receptacles looks like, and how does it work?
So the monofilament fishing line now could be from your spinning reel, from your fly line, or from the during the cod fishery itself. That goes into, it's balled up and goes into a receptacle. The receptacle is kind of like a PVC pipe with about a 6-inch diameter, and on top there's a 90. And then there's a little flap over that. You push it into the flap and it goes down into the collection receptacle. When it's full, Clear Your Gear company will be contacted and they will provide instructions how to send it off to them. The program is 100% free, not a charge whatsoever, and that's the great thing about it. No shipping, no handling, no nothing.
Barry, I know that your organization has put some of these out, but have any other organizations stepped forward and asked for some of these receptacles?
Yes, the salmon conservation group on the West Coast, SPAWN, has reached out to have some receptacles put around on the Humber and the exploits, which is great to see. And as well, another individual, Kathleen Coleman, who I'll give a shout out to, has taken it on herself to get some and circulated those amongst some of the outfitters in the province.
And where does it go? Does it get sent off? Does it get reused? What happens to the old fishing line?
When it's received at the Clear Your Gear facility, the line gets taken out and sorted and into different types, where then after it's sorted into piles, it goes off to different recycling places, for example, and it's recycled into plastic pellets, and those plastic pellets then are used in the automotive industry, for example, one use. Even if it doesn't collect a whole lot, the program is still very viable, and we would still move ahead with getting more in here. For example, next year I'm possibly looking at getting them on different strategic locations, such as fishing wharves during the food fishery would be a great place for those to go to.
Sounds like a great program.
That's a great initiative.
Well, before we get to the weather, we have some excellent video to share out of Central.
Yeah, take a look at this scene from Lawrencetown near Lewisport.
Oh my God. Look at the little one. Holy. How did they get out? Oh my God.
Wow. Sarah Squires was heading down the road when she came across some unexpected traffic. Certainly not something you see every day.
Yeah, lots of horsing around happening there. She writes, what a sight to see. Smart bunch, knew exactly where home was, and they certainly did too. They were hoofing it home like they're late for supper and went straight back into their barn. But for a while, they had free reign of the road. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
That's awesome.
So, weather time, very humid. Seems like a lot of records being broken this summer.
Yeah.
Is this humidity going to stick around very long?
No, we're going to say goodbye to it for a little while through the day tomorrow, but it will return as we get into, what's tomorrow, Friday? No, tomorrow's Thursday, so Friday is when it returns. Let's take. What happens when you're off for a couple of days? That's exactly what happens when you're off for a couple of days. Yeah, we do have a cold front swinging through, and that is associated with also a stationary front in behind it. That's that red and blue that you're seeing here. We're seeing lots of humidity to the south there, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, breaking records, an all-time record in Port aux Basques. And then we've got that northerly flow associated with this as well, and you'll certainly notice those temperatures drop this morning if you were in parts of the northeast along the coast, because your temperatures this morning were absolutely beautiful. 20 degrees in Twillingate, 22 in Bonavista, 25 in Gander. And then as the day went on, those winds shifted from westerlies, 25 was the peak in Gander, dropping down once we saw those winds shift to more northerly winds. And we're seeing those temperatures down now to the teens. That is the story through Bonavista. St. John's also down to about 18 degrees. And we're going to continue to see those temperatures drop as we head through the evening hours tonight, as that cold front moves a little bit further south and brings in some of that cooler air with it. It will be fairly quiet tonight, pretty much across the board. Not a whole lot happening. However, we will see some showers for eastern areas of the island. That will be the story through the overnight tonight, and then maybe a few showers for the southeastern portion of Labrador. But other than that, not a whole lot on the go. You'll likely see some increase in cloud for the southern portion of the island as we get into the early morning hours, and also that risk of a few showers. Temperatures tonight, pretty nice, down to the teens, 13 degrees for St. John's, so you'll see your temperatures dip a little bit more. Through central, looking at temperatures dipping into the single digits, those winds again out of the north, otherwise light pretty much everywhere else. And then temperatures into the single digits up across Labrador as well. Lab City, Nain, Cartwright, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, you'll see your temperature in and around 10 degrees as your overnight low tonight. Now tomorrow, not a whole lot happening either as far as the island is concerned. We will see some lingering cloud cover though along the southern portion of the island. Some showers possible and some drizzle as well. The story is up through Labrador. Some more rain on the way. We've seen quite a bit of rain over the last couple of days, but more is on the way for Lab West, and we'll head towards central Labrador as we get into the evening hours. The risk of thunderstorms also with this one as we get into the evening and overnight, particularly through central. You'll see your risk a little bit earlier for Lab West, and then that will head towards the coast, and eventually we're going to see those showers work their way across the island as well, which looks like they should be heavy at times by the time we get into the early morning hours on Friday. So as far as rainfall amounts go, this takes us through to Friday morning. You can see quite a bit of rain, looking like the 20 to 30 millimeter mark might just skirt Lab West, may stay a little bit north of you, but overall that's what you're looking at pretty much through central Labrador and then towards the coast as we get into Friday morning. We could see in excess of 30 millimeters and some of that heaviest rain, 30 to 40. It's certainly possible, especially if we do see some of those thunderstorms associated with some of that heavier rain through the afternoon. Tomorrow, temperatures staying relatively cool, 18 degrees for St. John's tomorrow. You'll note that humidity will be gone for the day, and then it will get nice and warm as we head towards central, at least warmer anyway, into the 23-degree range for Grand Falls, Windsor. Some sunshine as well peeking out through the afternoon. Going to keep that cloud cover in though along the south, along with that potential for some drizzle, maybe a little bit of some sunshine to start the day, but much cooler in Port aux Basques tomorrow as well. As you head a little bit further north though, Corner Brook, Grossmore and Humber Valley, all looking at those temperatures in the mid to high 20s as your daytime highs. Teens for the Northern Peninsula, same thing for Southeastern Labrador. Your winds are going to pick up as the day goes on as well. They'll be out of the east, so keeping those temperatures a little bit cool, about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. And then temperatures across the rest of the Big Land, looking at the teens, 18 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, same thing for Lab City. And again, your winds will pick up in the evening out of the west, about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. So that's a look at tomorrow's forecast. We're going to see a return of that humidity, though. I'll get into those details when I come back.
I'm not sure whether the passport is such a great idea because it'll allow people to do things that might get them into trouble.
Well, it's a controversial topic, but what does science tell us about vaccine passports? CBC's medical columnist Dr. Peter Lynn weighs in on that debate and more next. Well, as cases of the highly contagious Delta variant surge, more and more provinces are beginning to walk back loosened COVID restrictions. British Columbia is reviving its mask mandate for indoor public spaces, and vaccine passports will be introduced in BC and Quebec that will ban unvaccinated people from attending indoor events and gatherings, including eating in restaurants. So how concerned should we be about how the Delta variant is is changing our COVID exit strategy. We need only look overseas at the situation in Israel, where nearly 80% of the population is vaccinated, but its daily case count has gone from the single digits to an average of 7,000 cases a day. Once again, let's welcome family physician and CBC medical columnist Dr. Peter Lynn. Nice to see you again, Dr. Lynn.
Nice to see you, Carolyn.
Well, last week when you and I spoke about Israel, the country was recording 5,000 new cases a day. Now it's averaging 7,000. So considering most of the population is vaccinated, how is this happening right now?
Yeah, one of the stories is that the antibodies goes down over time. So by about 6 months' time, you might not have enough antibodies to protect you. And so remember, many of these people got vaccinated in January, sort of fairly early on. So now 6 months later, they've noticed that people that got vaccinated in January are more likely to get infected in July than, let's say, somebody that got vaccinated in April. And so don't worry, the April people in 6 months' time, they'll run out of antibodies. So in October, they will be at risk of getting infection as well. The second thing is that in Israel, they gave everybody the 2 shots within 3 weeks. And so we now know that if we stretch out that second shot, we can actually make more antibodies for you. And it kind of makes sense, right? If I give you 1 shot today and then I give you your second shot tomorrow, well, that second shot isn't going to help you boost anything. And so therefore, if you wait it out for 12 weeks, it turns out that you can make 3.5 times more antibodies from those 2 shots. And so in Israel, everybody got it at 3 weeks. So therefore, they didn't make as many antibodies as they could have. And of course, in the beginning, they gave the shots to elderly people. And so therefore, they don't tend to make as many antibodies as well. So the idea of lower antibodies to begin with, and then kind of over time, the antibodies drop off is one of the reasons why they think that there's such an increase in infection. The second thing is that, people went away. So therefore, when they opened up, people traveled and they brought back the Delta variant. So the Delta variant, as we know, needs more antibodies to fight it off. And so therefore, with a population with lower antibodies and you bring in a stronger virus, now the virus will be able to move around as well. And then the third thing that happened was the last piece of the puzzle was they got rid of masks. So when they got rid of masks, they still had big gatherings where people got together. So that means that somebody with the infection can breathe it out onto many people. And so therefore they would breathe it in. So it was a perfect storm. Both the Army was a little weakened because the antibody levels were low. We have a stronger virus that's coming in. And that's why they went from, 0 cases on June the 9th to, as you were saying, 7,500 cases actually now per day over there in Israel.
Wow. And, some of those pieces to the puzzle, as you put it, apply to this province because last month, health officials in the province reduced the amount of time required between shots to 4 weeks from 8 weeks. And we've also dropped the mask mandate. So what are the chances we could see an outbreak similar to Israel here?
Yeah, and I think everybody's making the same decisions. Numbers go down, so therefore you figure you can ease up a little bit. And the thought is if I can give you shots quicker, I can protect you quicker. But we have to remember we're playing the long game, right, as well. So if I can keep you safe between now and 12 weeks from now, then why don't I keep you safe and then you can get the vaccination at 12 weeks? Whereas if you can't be safe, let's say you work in the hospital, well, then I'd rather give you the 2 shots quickly and protect you now. But we have to think more a long-term game. And I think the doctors in Israel have been telling us everywhere could have this scenario unfold. And we just have to look to the stateside. The U.S., basically, they have a huge disaster on their hands. They had early vaccinations, so many of those people are running out of antibodies. They did 3 weeks as well, and they got rid of masks, and they had these large events. So after July 4th, basically the cases just continue to increase, and they're at around 150,000 cases per day. And the CDC told us that they realized that people that are vaccinated could still get infected. So basically the vaccine will protect them from invasion. So in other words, the virus has a hard time getting in, but then it can camp inside your nose, and therefore I can bring that to other people so we can continue to spread that virus from a person that's vaccinated to a person not vaccinated. And that's why we're seeing a lot of kids getting infected there as well. Here in Canada, we had similar situation, right? We had early vaccinations of our long-term care and our immunocompromised people. So they would have had shots, let's say in January, so they might be running out soon. And of course, we did 3 weeks for them because we wanted to protect them quickly. And so they may not have made all the antibodies. And we also have large gatherings. Now, the only difference is that the masking. if you look across the country and you look at where they took away masks early, for example, Alberta took away masks July 1st. They went from 50 cases to over 600 cases per day. In British Columbia, they went from, July 1st and about 50 cases per day to about 500 cases per day as well. And they've now rolled it back and said mask everywhere indoors as well. So everywhere where we've had the mask removed early, we see the cases increasing. And so therefore, perhaps the mask is really doing a very important job for us. And one of the things that we're hoping for is the passports. I heard a lot of people talking about the passports will save us because it'll allow the right people to get into the venues. The problem with that is, let's say I have two people, they both have shots. The first person is a 30-year-old who just had their shots 2 months ago. The second person is an 80-year-old who had their shots 8 months ago. So those two people are not equally protected, but based on the passport system, they'll be treated the same and they will behave the same as if they have full protection. And so therefore people could get infected that way. Second thing is we don't know if they're carrying anything in their nose. The passport will not tell us, are they carrying virus in their nose? And so therefore they can continue to spread. So I'm not sure whether the passport is such a great idea because it'll allow people to do things that might get them into trouble. So perhaps passport, no passport, vaccine, no vaccine. The key is to keep the mask on, to keep the distance between you and a stranger, and also just aim away from other people's face. So therefore you're not breathing in the air that they're breathing out. And that way we can avoid this fourth wave that everybody is predicting to be such a huge wave that will hit us here in Canada.
Very interesting considering all of the controversy around the vaccine passports right now. So what about more vaccine, getting a third shot? Israel has given out 1.5 million boosters. The United States also approved booster shots. So should Canada follow suit?
Yeah, I think so. I think boosters are going to be there, but for whom, right? So in the US, they said everybody. So everybody after 8 months, you should get a booster. Whereas in Israel, they started focusing on the people above 60 because they were the ones ending up in hospital. And when they did that, they can cut their hospitalization by 50%. So it does work when you give a third shot. And now they've expanded it to including 40-year-olds and up to get that third shot. And the thought is we're going to show you the bad guy a third time. And hopefully your army will then say, hey, this guy's been around for a long time. We better have some permanent ways to deal with this. So therefore, more antibodies and more T cells and those kinds of things. And this strategy has worked before. Like, for example, hepatitis B, we give 3 shots at the beginning. And that will buy you over 30 years worth of protection. So we're hoping that maybe COVID will get lucky and 3 shots will give us more long-lasting protection. We'll have to see. We'll have to let time sort of tick on to make sure that that's actually working. I think in Canada, we'll take a much more focused approach. In other words, let's vaccinate the people that really need it. Now, I wish, Carolyn, we had a little blood test. I'd take your blood. I check your antibody levels. You're a little low, so I need to give you a boost. It's kind of like oil. When you go down, we give you a bit of oil. That'd be perfect. But antibody testing is very expensive, and we don't know what level we should be keeping you at to protect you. But for now, we don't have that cheap, easy test to do, so we will go after the most vulnerable people. So immunocompromised, patients with cancer, elderly, people that got their shot in January. Because don't forget, a lot of our healthcare workers got their shots early. They may be running out soon. And the people that got it at 3 weeks in between, because they might not have produced as many antibodies. So I think in Canada, we'll take a much more focused approach, and that way we can justify why we have to booster them because they need the most protection, as opposed to giving a shot to every single Canadian in terms of a boostering program.
Fascinating stuff there. Dr. Peter Lynn, thank you so much.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Will she do it again?
The pride and joy of Kippens is just hours away from her first race. Katarina Roxon, we take you to Tokyo just ahead.
federal election campaign is now in day 11. During a stop in Surrey, BC, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau expanded on his promise to make housing more affordable. He says he would boost taxes on banks and insurance companies to pay for that plan.
We will raise the corporate income tax rate for Canada's largest and most profitable banks and insurance companies by 3 percentage points on all earnings over $1 billion. We'll also establish the Canada Recovery Dividend, so these institutions contribute more over the next 4 years of Canada's recovery.
Well, all of Canada's big banks have been reporting huge quarterly profits this week. Trudeau was dogged by hecklers again today. At least one of them harangued Trudeau yesterday in Hamilton, Ontario.
We are Canadian, we are free. You will not take that from us, not now, not ever.
In this difficult time, when people have needed their internet access more than ever to access for work, for school, for services, we know that this is a necessity. People need it, and it should be affordable.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh dialed in on cell phone and internet fees during his campaign stop in Windsor, Ontario. He accused the Liberals of breaking their promise to bring costs down. Singh says the federal government has the authority to control cell and internet fees, and he would use that power.
As Prime Minister, I will double the current federal commitment to the growth of health funding, making an additional $60 billion available for health and mental health over the next 10 years. This will be the largest increase in federal health spending in a generation.
Healthcare spending was at the center of Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole's campaign announcement today. Along with the $60 billion, he also pledged another $1 billion to programs tailored to Indigenous communities. Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet spent the day in Quebec City. He focused on sickness benefits and the employment insurance program. Blanchet criticized the Liberals for not meeting their commitment to increasing the eligibility for the benefit to 26 weeks from the current 15.
Lots of action on day one of competition at the Paralympics in Tokyo, and Canada is already beginning to rack up medals. CBC's Devin Haru is in Tokyo with more details on the first day of wins.
Day one complete here at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics, and it was an outstanding start for the Canadians. 2 medals, 2 bronze medals on the opening day of competition. Keely Shaw from Mydale, Saskatchewan, winning the first medal for the country. She is competing in her first Paralympics, and she was in the C4 3,000 meter individual pursuit event, falling behind the Australian early in the race, but Shaw, she is known for her great finishes, surged across the finish line to capture bronze, her first Paralympic medal. And consider this, just 4 years ago she went to her first ever Cycling Canada national camp, and today she's on the podium on the largest athletic stage. To the Tokyo Aquatic Centre now, a magical venue for the Canadians over the course of the Olympics, 6 medals, and it was Aurélie Rivard looking to add to her medal haul. She won 5 years ago in Rio, and she won bronze tonight in the S10 50-meter freestyle race. 6 medals now for Rivard, and she's got a lot more ahead here at the Games. We should also mention the Canadian women's wheelchair basketball team with a convincing 73-54 victory over Great Britain. They were trailing at the half, a powerful finish to the game. They're off and to a great start here at the Paralympics. Devin Haru, CBC News, Tokyo.
And the pride and joy of Kippens competes tonight. Katarina Roxon will be competing in her signature event, the 100-meter breaststroke. She won gold in that category 4 years ago. Now, the heat tonight happens at about 11:30 p.m. Island time, and that's a half an hour earlier in most parts of Labrador. If she wins and gets into the finals, she'll swim again at 8:10 Island time tomorrow morning. But that's not all. Roxon will also compete in relays, freestyle, and individual medley events over the weekend.
The 100th anniversary of the launch of the Bluenose was yesterday, and in Lunenburg, a special tribute was unveiled for the man who made the iconic schooner a racing star. Colleen Jones has that story from Nova Scotia.
Hiding behind the cardboard dime, the Bluenose 2. It plies the waters these days as an ambassador for the province. But back in the day, the reason the Bluenose became a superstar? The rock star headlines, the rivalry, and the races, with the American schooner out of Gloucester, with the Nova Scotia schooner becoming the king of the seas, never losing a race. Back in the roaring 20s and 30s, Captain Angus Walters became a legend.
Probably was some of the reasons why we won as many races as we did. There was one boss and one boss only, and when he said move today, he didn't mean tomorrow. He meant today. And all those little things helped, and they understood that.
100 years since the launch of the Bluenose, Angus Walters is being honored for what he brought to his home port of Lunenburg.
This is a plaster cast from the piece that I sculpted of him.
Inside our studio, sculptor Chippy Kennedy is working on a current project, but a while back, fascinated by her mother's stories of Angus Walters' heroics, she started sculpting him. Unlike today, where she has her sister in as a live model, she had to use old photographs to bring the captain back.
He had a pretty sort of savoir-faire look about him. And he had the pose that that very iconic pose. He's sitting next to the trophy, wearing, his iconic cap and vest and everything. He just looked so confident, and he just had a very fabulous look about him, and sort of, here I am, I've won this thing.
At the Fisheries Museum, because of COVID protocols, a small gathering for the unveiling of the bronze bust Chippy Kennedy created. His grandchildren, Margaret Smith and James Walters, pull the tartan cloth away.
How proud are both of you today?
Very proud.
Very proud, yeah. Yeah, he be smiling today.
The current Bluenose captain is Phil Watson. He says long before electronics and technology entered the racing world, Walters just had old world sailing skills.
He had to know that ship inside and out, and he had to know every little creak and groan and every little tension on the sheet, and to be able to keep track of it all in his head as to where they were and where they were going and how to come back again.
Meanwhile, at Angus Walters' gravesite in Lunenburg, there's no mention of his Bluenose fame, but people who visit there leave the dime as a tribute. Now this bronze bust immortalizes the man who helped put Lunenburg on the map. Colleen Jones, CBC News, Lunenburg.
Oh, what a talent to be able to sculpt those faces from clay like that.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Well, Ashley, it has been a beautiful summer for going to the beach, from the West Coast to Central, even here on the Avalon.
Yes, it has, but not so much along the Black Sea. Check out this scene in Crimea, where warm and dry weather has been bringing an explosion of jellyfish.
All right, so now at first, may not look so bad, but just look at this. Wow, the animals are flourishing here because there's not as much fresh water flowing from rivers to the sea. All that salty seawater is perfect for the jellyfish population.
Yeah, but not so much for beachgoers. No surprise, the tourists are staying far, far away.
Yeah, don't want to get stung by a jellyfish.
Every time I see a jellyfish, I get nervous. I want to swim, and then I see one, and I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, but they're so beautiful
They
too.
are,
at
yeah,
the same
they're
time.
pretty cool.
All right, so long range forecast, what's on the way?
Oh, we're already looking towards the weekend. It does look like the start of the weekend's going to be a little bit wet. Let's take a look at the future tracker there. You can see that area of low pressure is going to bring in some more humid air with it, though, as we head through the day on Friday. However, it will be fairly wet through the day for most of us. We'll eventually see some clearing skies for Lab West, or at least the clearing out of the showers. And then all of the activity will mainly be for southeastern portions of Labrador as well as the island. And as that area of low pressure moves out, Saturday at this point looking like it should be fairly nice. We'll maybe see a few lingering cloud cover and showers for anywhere along the northeast coast. That should move off as we get into Saturday afternoon, maybe a few showers through Labrador as well. And then it looks like it should be fairly quiet as we get into Sunday as well. So temperatures on Friday going to bump up a little bit. You're going to drop though for the west coast down to 23 degrees for Corner Brook. Most of us should be sitting somewhere between 19 to 23 degrees, a little bit cooler for the northern peninsula. And then across Labrador, Nain looking beautiful, 13 degrees though through the day, and 15 for Lab City. And again, your showers will be in the morning and eventually they'll clear out as the day goes on. As we head into Saturday though, a big drop in temperatures. We're looking at temperatures sitting in the teens. This is a couple of degrees below where we should be sitting this time of year. Most of us somewhere between 19 to 20 degrees as our daytime highs. Up across Labrador, more like 16. So you're actually a little bit above seasonal. 19 degrees in Lab City, 18 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. But the chance of showers should clear out as the day goes on through the day. Now, unfortunately, we're going to stick with these cooler temperatures as we get into the end of the weekend and beginning of next week. So in the teens, that sunshine will feel nice though at 16 degrees. It will be a little bit humid, like I said, on Friday, and then we're going to say goodbye to that for a little while. And as we head towards central Labrador, you're looking at that humidity as well. By Saturday, keeping things gray at this point, at least for the first half of the day, and then clearing out for Sunday. Beautiful day, 19 degrees, and then back into the 20s. As we get into Monday for Western Newfoundland, you're looking at a similar forecast, maybe a little bit warmer though, the low 20s for the end of the week and the beginning of next week. Monday should be nice and sunny at 19 degrees. For Eastern Labrador, Friday, the other thing to note there, your temperature 18 degrees, that's going to be your daytime high in the morning, and then temperatures will drop into the teens through the day. Overnight lows dipping down into the single digits. And then as far as our weather photo goes, look at that sunset in Battle Harbor. Thank you so much to Stella Rich for sharing that great shot with us. We don't often get pictures from Battle Harbor, but if you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Beautiful.
Great shot.
Well, I can't believe we're nearing the end of August.
Next week is already September.
Yeah, amazing.
Can't wait. I can't wait. See, I feel so isolated over here because they're over here. It looks like we're close, but they're so far away. So it's a conversation. I'm not even a part of it. I don't even need to be here. See ya.
Oh, Jeremy.
Well, that's it for us tonight. That's definitely it for Joe. There he is. Say goodbye. Yes. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Good night.
And now you're out of it.